One of my first clients was Tommy Miller in that space. He's well known for saying that his dream has to be big enough for everyone else's dream to fit inside. People have this insatiable thirst to be seen by other humans. Humans work for another human for one reason only. I don't think people work for companies for mission, vision, values. If you're in a business, you have to realize your number one job is your people. What's the mindset of a candidate that's looking at a job description?
Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
Welcome back to the Better Than Rich Show. I'm your host today, Mike Abramowitz. I am here with the sales boss and the CEO of WhoHire, Jonathan Whistman. Thank you so much for being here.
Mike, nice to be here.
You were just filling us in on Mark Zuckerberg's focus on how he's filling in positions for his company, but he's at the top of the funnel as a human, but he's also leveraging AI.
Well, we were talking about talent acquisition, how for small businesses, critical function of their business is getting people and how do they scale their companies? And that is, there is very few qualified AI experts, like the people building the foundational models on which our society is quickly becoming built. And Mark is hitting the news because he's spending hundreds of millions of dollars for single people talent. He's sort of getting beat up in the tech world about that. But what most people don't realize is that he has put himself as the chief recruiter. So he's doing all the research. So when he sees an AI, and these are usually 20-something PhD scientists, really deep understanding of calculus and advanced algebraic equations. So he's reading their research papers, deeply understanding the individual and personally reaching out to them and making the pitch. When you think about most organizations, they leave arguably one of the most important decisions around the future of the business to some young 20-year-old person working in HR who's never really done the job. And they're having to screen that talent based on some sort of shorthand or heuristic for who's going to make a good person in our company. And yet you see somebody like Mark realizes this is a winner take activity. So he puts himself right in that front seat, hand selecting the people that are going to build his organization. That's a great example of leadership.
Why do you think that a CEO of one of the largest companies in the world is choosing to make that a priority when Joe the plumber is stuck in the ditches digging because his lead guy quit and he can't make the time to go find that key hire and make it a priority? Where's the disconnect? Why is Mark making it such a priority that I must find this key hire and I must own responsibility for it? But sometimes some people might not make it a priority because they have to actually get the job done or do the job itself.
We could state the glaringly obvious, which is with wealth comes some luxury of time and choosing where you're going to spend things. So Mark can probably make different choices than your average plumber. Two different worlds. But here's the thing I often talk to small business owners about. Let's erase what business they're in, whether they're in construction or HVAC or plumbing, electrical, whatever they're doing. And I know that's largely you're serving that audience. Regardless of what business they're in, they're not actually in the HVAC, plumbing, electrical business. They're in the people business. Their job is to build people and humans and to elevate the potential of the humans on their team. Their people are in the HVAC plumbing business. That's a subtle mind shift for them to realize I'm not in the business of digging this ditch. Doesn't mean I can't do it. I'm not in the business of installing HVAC or plumbing. I'm in the business of building people, which means their time really has to be centered around how am I finding people? How am I bringing them into my team? What's the story that I'm telling them? How do I compete against the big guys who can offer these potential employees what looks like a much more secure future, better benefits, balanced work schedule? What's the story that I'm telling those potential hires, bring them on my team? And as I grow, my story is going to have to change because all of a sudden I'm the big guy. And now how do I compete against the small guy and the story that might be attractive to my ideal employees?
It brings up the idea there's like the mission, the vision, the core values, the origin story of why I started the business in the first place. When you ask a customer, what's your differentiator? Why should we do business with you? What's unique about your customer experience compared to everyone else that says our customer service is great? But when we tie it to mission, vision, values, is there anything deeper than that?
Yeah, I would actually disagree. I don't think people work for companies for mission, vision, values. I believe that humans work for another human for one reason only, and that is somebody's going to work for you for as long as they believe they can do the best work of their life working for you. The minute that's no longer true, they're going to be looking elsewhere. How do people discover that? I also think it's one thing, and it is you have the ability to see them as a unique human with unique wants, desires. People have this insatiable thirst to be seen by other humans. And so if you're the CEO, you're the owner of a company, and you develop the power to really see people as individual humans, wants, needs, family, all the mess that's going on in their life, they're going to want to work for you outside of all the other things you do for them.
When we were recruiting, one of the things that we would always ask them is give me an idea of what you want in a year from now, 3 years from now, from 5 years from now. And we work with college kids. So it was always like, paint me a picture of why you're going to college. What do you want beyond that? And then we would like paint the big picture with them. And then they just draw it back to how this would be a great playground for them to learn the skills or to earn the paycheck to fund whatever it is that they want, or be in an environment that supports those goals and dreams. Is that kind of the idea of what you're saying, or is it deeper than that or different than that?
Yes, it's exactly what I'm mentioning. However, it has to be void of all of the corporate templated things that managers and leaders say. We talked earlier about how I got into working in the home service industry, and one of my first clients was Tommy Miller in that space. He has his latest book, Building a Team Where Everyone Wins. If you were to go inside of Tommy's building and you were just to sit and observe him for a day, the one thing you're going to realize he is a master on is understanding people and connecting to people's dream. And he's well known for saying that his dream has to be big enough for everyone else's dream to fit inside. And that's not just words. That's actually how he lives. He spends an incredible amount of time just thinking about the people on his team. I remember the first time I was in his office, he had reached out to me based on my book. He said, "Hey, you got to come see me." I went down to see him, and I'm sitting in his office, and he's spending quite a bit of time on his phone, right? Like texting while we're in the middle of the conversation. To be honest, I was sort of like, well, that's kind of rude. What's so important in your phone? And he's like, "I apologize. One of my technicians is having this issue with his wife." And he went on about what was going on a very individual level with the technician. Now, this is the point where he has a lot of technicians where most CEOs would probably be 1 or 2 clicks removed from the actual person doing the job. And yet he's not that way. And as he's scaled to hundreds of employees, he still finds ways to construct inside of his business those touch points that make people feel seen. And as long as somebody feels seen and they believe that they can do the best work of their life working for you, you're going to have a great team on which to build your business.
How might someone bring what you're talking about into their business? Is this brought into the application and then the interview is conducted in a specific way?
Well, here's the question most business owners have a hard time answering. Why would somebody want to work for you? So you have to spend time on that question. If you're a business owner who has zero vision and you're just trying to keep cash coming in the front door faster than it's going out the back door, and you don't really have any sense of purpose or where you're going and what you're building in your community and why you're building that, nobody's going to want to join that. So who will join that? It's people that are in that same mindset. They haven't really decided what they want in life. They really have a lost sense of direction. So your caliber of where you're shopping is different. So when you're small, I would say most of your recruiting, certainly when you're under $2 million, a lot of that recruiting can just be done shoulder to shoulder in your community. I don't see somebody needing to build this big recruiting funnel because you're not recruiting that many people. Active in your community, you probably have access to people, good quality people. But as you scale, you certainly need a system in place. So in my business, WhoHire, that's all we do for the trades is everything from helping write the job ad all the way through some of the automations that help people move people in a humane way quickly through the hiring funnel, get them in front of the interview. But let's just go back to, as an example, think of a job description. What's the mindset of a candidate that's looking at a job description? They're out on Indeed, whatever job board there are, and they're scrolling, and it's an endless sea of sameness. Have you ever gone onto Amazon, like to buy a book, and you just type in the title of the book? Mike's looking for his latest romance novel, so he puts, hot romance in there, and you get all these covers that come up. How do you pick the book you're going to read? Nobody clicks into every one and reads everyone. You just go, oh, that cover catches my eye. And so I click on that, and then I read a little review, right? And then I shut it and I go, and I might only look at 2 or 3 before I select the book. I don't look at all 100. You have to think about your job ad is sitting on the shelf in Indeed right up next to everyone else's job ad. So how does it sound different? I would tell your listeners to go out, grab their job ad, and then download the 5 job ads right next to theirs. 99% of them are going to read exactly the same. It's like cold oatmeal sitting on the breakfast table.
So give me the goods, Jonathan. What
So,
what levels it up?
One, I would say you have to define what's your ideal candidate profile. So who works in your business? Who thrives in your business?
I had this
So,
conversation with Ryan England. He was just
yeah,
a recent guest. So
yeah.
I kind of like, bro, give me the tactical. What do we want the job ad to say? And he actually went into a conversation of like, this is how you recruit the buddy of the technician. Go to one of your techs on the team, take him out to lunch, get him to make a phone call his friend and recruit his friend right there on the spot.
As a small company, that's going to work. As you really scale, taking buddies to lunch is not hyper scalable. And here's the problem: when somebody refers somebody to work for you, you never know whether they're doing you a favor or their buddy a favor. Especially when somebody is referring somebody to work for you, you better have a really rigorous process in place to filter that person and make sure that they're still a good fit for the business and not use that as a shortcut. But if we go back to just the job description as an example, and as soon as I give you one and everyone starts doing that, you're going to have to change, because you got to stand out as different. What I'm currently promoting is, and I just say currently because you have to update, you have to change. Even in my book, The Sales Boss, people go, "Oh, well, you wrote this in your book." I'm like, "Yeah, well, that was 6 years ago." You better be innovating. If you're recruiting the way you did last year, I would say you're already behind. Things are changing that fast. But in a job ad, if I know who my ICP is, my ideal candidate, right? And here's where we get into trouble. We sort of absorb this HR thinking to dehumanize. We can't ask people, their family status, or we can't ask that, all these things we're not allowed to ask people. And you can't discriminate against a guy and a woman, or young or old. But the truth is, humans work in your business. And there is a type of human that shows up consistently and does that job in your business. Now, I'm not suggesting you don't expand the tent and try to bring different people in. What I am suggesting is, if you're going to have 2 different kind of people that come into your organization, write 2 different job ads. If I know that my ideal worker is a 25-year-old, hasn't gone to college, always struggled with books, and has worked a series of labor type of jobs, and now all of a sudden might be getting serious about dating. Maybe he has his first kid, his girlfriend's now pregnant, and he realizes, now I got to really think about my career. I'm going to write a job ad exactly for that person. My job ad's going to say, did you wake up and realize life has a lot more responsibilities than you thought it would, and you need to earn a lot more than you ever thought you would? That's going to be my first line. I'm going to talk directly to that person. I don't care if I have to write 6 ads for 6 different kinds of humans. I'm going to speak directly to it. So when my ideal candidate reads that, it's like, wow, this person's speaking directly to me. So the entire beginning of my ad is going to say nothing about my company. It's going to talk about their life, how it currently is, how they got there, and propose to them that they can do their best work of their life if they come work for me. That doesn't mean they're going to work for me forever, but for that next phase of their life, what is it that my company, ABC company, can do for them? Does that make sense?
Makes a ton of sense.
Especially for home services companies or construction companies, those sort of companies. I wouldn't do this for your senior leadership roles, but 90% of your roles, I would be doing group interviews. And when I say group interviews, most people think I know what a group interview is. And I would suggest that they don't. A group interview, the way that we teach it at WhoHire, is a stage play put on by a psychologist. The entire thing is scripted. You have 4 of your staff members there helping with this interview. You might have 10, 12 candidates there. Every one of your staff members has a role. And part of that stage play is the opening act, where you have somebody entering the room in a leadership role in your organization. And the very first thing they say isn't, welcome, we're going to do an interview. It's starting with the origin story, not of the founder, the origin story that most closely matches the ICP that's sitting in that room. So they might start with something that says, I'll never forget December 19th, the day I found out my girlfriend was pregnant. I felt, and they're going to describe how they felt and what they were worried about and how they discovered the trades and what the trades done for them. And they're going to go on this whole journey about why they're standing in that room there. And it's going to end with a transition statement that sounds something like, this career has allowed me to do X, Y, Z. And in that, I'm going to put all my very highest level things. If you think of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Or like right at the bottom, you have what? Survival, food, shelter. But at the very top, as you go up there's like self-actualization. So when I'm giving that early pitch, I'm using psychology. I'm starting down with how am I going to put food on the table? How am I going to provide for my young family? But I'm eventually in my words, I'm going to say, and in this career, I've been able to self-actualize. I've been able to give back to my community. I've been able to build my qualities as a father and as a community member. And that's what people want. I'm not talking about the job yet. And that's where I think people get it wrong. And they think, oh, it's just digging ditches. It's a laborer, it's a landscaper, it's a painter. I don't care what the job is. Everyone from the day they were born has dreams. And yes, maybe they gave up on them. Maybe they slowed down. Maybe they're stuck. But if you can become the person that ignites in them a recommitment to the thing they used to dream about, you're going to be their hero. They're going to work for you. They're going to grow up in your organization. They're going to be your best leaders.
There's like a lot of different directions that I want to go. And there's a direction we haven't gone yet on this podcast that you could speak to from your seat. And for those that are watching, I'll share my screen just to like context. But we're going to go in an AI direction because I know that's something that you do at WhoHire, and this is something that a lot of our listeners, when they go to betterthanrich.com/timerich, this is like an opt-in. They have access to like a couple of our custom GPTs. But I just wanted to like demonstrate a talent attract guide that I built. And just asked a bunch of questions. I took a little bit of what you just said, Jonathan. Give me an example of a finished ad for a landscape lighting company seeking a technician that inspires them to want to work for me. Wow me with a sample that includes what's in it for them working for us. Just to see what it spits out. Now hiring, landscape lighting technician, light up landscape right in your future. Are you someone who takes pride in building this? Why you'll love working for us?
I think that's terrible.
That's why I wanted to go in this direction. There's literally terrible input. Because of that, I wanted you to kind of pick apart.
Yeah. Well, why is it terrible?
Correct.
The reason it's terrible is GPT is building on all of the other terrible ads that are out there. Like you're starting with this question. Are you someone who takes pride in building beautiful, functional outdoor spaces that make people say, wow? That's focused on the company. What do I need from Mike? This has nothing to do with who is Mike as a human. But I'm going to always start with what's the biggest problem, frustration, challenge that's happening in Mike's life now. Because what I know is if Mike's out hitting the job boards, he's not doing it for fun. He's doing it because something's wrong in his life. It's the only reason we look for work. If nothing's wrong in our life, we're not looking for work. So start with a problem. Mike, I'm going to give you a link to a guide I wrote for exactly this purpose of writing job ads that win. We've tested it. They get a 6-to-1 increase in the number of applicants, which means your contractors are going to be spending less money on Indeed. Everybody's going to like that. So I'm going to give you a link to it. You can give it away for free.
Amazing. All right. So listener, go to the show notes for the link that we're going to get, which is going to be super helpful here.
Yeah.
But I do want to have you riff on this because I know WhoHire is really specializing in the AI game and being on the cutting edge of leveraging automation and leveraging AI to improve the quality of our hires. You want to speak on how you're leveraging AI in this capacity?
Yeah. So one, I think it's really important that when you say AI, most people think Chat GPT, it's like the functional thing we're using AI for. AI has been around for a long time. It is just advanced pattern recognition and math, all of AI on a massive scale. That's all it is. So is it important to be able to identify patterns in the humans that apply to your business to come work for you? And is it important for you to understand the historical patterns in your business about why some people come in, stick and stay and perform at a high level? Other people come in, they get stuck in mid-level performance and eventually churn out of your organization. That's what we're accomplishing with WhoHire, is to help you as the business owner understand the patterns in the people that apply and the people that stick and stay in your business, and help you spot that pattern and make sure that you're leveraging the data you have in your business as you go forward to get better people who stick and stay longer in your business. That's foundationally what we do. Practically, how do we do that? Well, there's a number of ways. In the middle of our platform, we build prediction models, and it's based on industry data. So as an example, we built an HVAC model for every position in an HVAC company: your installer, your comfort advisor, your dispatcher, your CSR agent, your operations manager. And we built that by taking hundreds of companies with thousands of employees, and we assessed all of those real employees with a huge psychographic instrument, over 450 data points that science tells us are stable human traits, grit, the way you think, the way you handle stress, all of those things, which are sort of baked into us as humans. And then we got actual performance data from those same employees. We interviewed all of their managers. We fed that into a machine learning algorithm to say which of all these things that are true or can be true about a particular human matter for an HVAC install tech. And we got that down to the handful of items. So now when you have an install tech coming into your organization, we're actually automatically comparing them through automations to the people whose job performance we know. And we say, Mike's most like these people, and here's how he's likely going to show up in your organization. So we're giving you an edge for that. Now, as you continue to use our program and you connect us to your service titan or whatever system of record you're using, our data is going to get smarter to compare those candidates not only to the industry and people whose job we're knowing, but how are the people in your business historically doing? So that's a way of getting smarter. So you really have two options, right? As a home service contractor, I'm either going to have that mid-20-year-old HR person scanning resumes who's never done the job, or I'm going to use an AI tool who's literally looked at thousands of actual humans doing the job and look at the resume, look at the way they answer questions, look at their video interviews, analyze those and say, this is the fit, this is the match. And we stack rank all those. So from writing the job ad, and we also help write the job ad to get attention. It's automated in our system. As soon as a candidate starts coming in, our system starts dynamically texting with them, feels very human, works them through our questionnaire, ranking them all the way through to say, here's how that person's likely to fit. We measure things to what we call go ready skills. So if you need somebody with a basic knowledge of plumbing or basic knowledge of construction, we're going to measure that inside of our system. So you have a score for every person. Here's something I think your contractors would agree with. It's getting harder and harder to find great talent. So what that means is you're going to, just by nature of the environment we're in, you're going to have to cast a wider and wider net to get enough people to find the one or two. On average, in our system, people are screening over 200 candidates and interviewing over 60 to get one qualified hire. I would say most of your contractors don't talk to more than 10 people before they make their hire. And that's a problem because they're hiring the best available, not the best. The reason they're doing best available is they have no idea how to build a solid hiring pipeline. So in our system, we also have a dial that matches the reality for your contractor. Because there are times when you're losing revenue because you have a truck sitting empty and you need somebody who can hit the ground running. You need them to start producing revenue yesterday. There are other times where you're singing along, the team's full, and you really want to hire just for culture fit and future potential. You have time to train an apprentice because you don't need them necessarily delivering revenue today. Those are two different hiring scenarios. Same job, different hirings. So in the back of our platform, it's literally a dial. You just drag it to the left. We're going to re-rank every single candidate. And we're going to really focus on, do they have the past experience? Can they hit the ground running? Do they have the knowledge to do the job today? On the other side, just future potential, fit for my culture. We're going to really focus more on the quality of the interview. We're going to really focus on our prediction models to say, is this the sort of person who, given the right training, given the right development, tends to love the job, sticks and stays doing that.
So step one, I need to source resumes or applicants or people that I'm going to funnel into the program. Is that an accurate first step?
Your responsibility as a business owner is always, how do I attract humans into my hiring funnel? So yes, we're going to push your job ads out to the job boards. We're going to pull people into your system. You're still going to pay Indeed. You're still going to do your job fairs. You're still going to do all of the things that you would normally do to attract people to you and get noticed.
I'm going to attract as many resumes and applications. I'm going to attract interest to my company.
Yeah. And we can help you with that. So we can push things out to social media. We help create content for social media that gets people to apply. You got a lot of companies' social media. It's all about getting customers, almost nothing about job applicants, right? Yeah, but yes, you have to build the funnel.
So in that multi-channel approach of collecting applications, job boards, Indeed, local events, apprenticeship programs, social media, maybe there's like a list of 10 or 20 different avenues that I can go as a business owner to source and attract like potentially qualified applicants or just applicants in general. Is that anything else
That's
you want
right.
to speak to that, or I hit that? Got it?
You nailed it.
So then we pump that in, and then they're going to go through this process where it's just going to like kind of sift through and figure out which ones are qualified, which are not, based on the pretty much what you just mentioned. The AI runs its course, and then it's going to engage with those that are maybe most qualified, or it's going to engage with all of them potentially to do some sort of qualifying process.
Yes, we respond to 100% of your applicants 100% of the time. Qualified, unqualified, but we're filtering and sorting that. But we're drawing your attention as the business owner or the hiring manager to the handful of people that you should be spending quality time with. And we're allowing those people to schedule on your calendar or whatever it is that is your next step.
If the owner can't be there with every one of those candidates before they get into a group evaluation or somewhere in the hiring process, having a video interaction between the candidate and the owner, maybe that would be like a Loom video, or the candidate sending a recording, answering several questions. What's your philosophy on that? Do you feel like in the blue collar space, in this tech world, is that too far out there to expect technicians to be able to use video?
Yeah, so I love that question, because most of your business owners are going to say exactly what you said. That's too much to expect. However, the data shows it's not. And most people that are applying are very comfortable doing a video interview. So we have it baked into our platform. People can use it or not use it, just depends. Now, when people run into a challenge, I can't get people to complete a video, it isn't usually that the completing the video is the problem. It's that your reputation in the marketplace isn't strong enough to cause anybody to take any sort of action. So they're applying to a blah ad. They're looking at your social media, and you look like every single other company. Like you are just a box that they're going to check. Maybe somebody's going to give me a job. If somebody is applying for Tommy Mello's company, they'll jump through as many hoops as they need to jump to get a spot on his team, because he's got plenty of videos out there showing people earning in excess of 200, 300, 400,000 as a garage door technician, having a heck of a lot of fun, talking about how they just bought their third or fourth rental home, how they fixed their credit, how they solved their marriage problems when they went to work for Tommy Mello. So he could ask them to do 6 videos, do the 6 videos. So if a candidate's not willing to do something to get onto your team, it's because you haven't built an attraction model. That's the problem you have to fix. That goes back to what you and I talked about at the beginning. Contractor is not in the contracting business. Their people are in the contracting business. Their business is the people business, finding, attracting, developing people, humans. That's 100% of their job. And if they do that job well, somebody else will take care of the contracting and the installing and the selling and the ordering parts and all of the other minutia that goes into a business. Their day job, 99.9% of the time, is humans.
Speak to this guy that's saying here, that sounds great, but I'm not really great with people. I'm good at turning the wrench.
Yeah, go get a job. Save yourself a lifetime of suffering, debt, tax bills, getting burned out. Just go work for somebody else. Not everybody's cut out to be an entrepreneur. Our society does a really good job of trying to convince everybody that's like a badge of honor. It's not a badge of honor. You see entrepreneurs that are overweight, fat, kick their dog, argue with their wife. Life is miserable. If you're not a good leader of humans, if you can't inspire people, you have no business being an entrepreneur and trying to build a life for people. You're going to fail them and you're going to fail yourself. How's that for harsh?
I love it. I love it, because frankly, it's the guy turning the wrench just was so good at that. He built a 7-figure business based on just skills, but doesn't really understand the leadership aspect or the business aspect.
Or be happy being a 7-figure technician and figure out how are you going to invest your excess capital if you have any.
It's hard for that guy to even find happy being that technician, because he's grinding 7 days a week and answering every single phone call himself.
Can you acquire the skill? The problem isn't that they can't. Like, they've become a craftsman at their craft. The problem is they've allowed that craft to become their identity. And until they can shift their identity, they can't shift their actions. They actually believe the thing that's going to pay their bills and build their future is turning the wrench. It's not that thing. But that's their point of pride. Have you ever had somebody, they're the office expert at some software program, the CRM or the ERP system or whatever, and everybody goes to them, right? Because they're the expert. You need something done in Excel, she's your gal. You have another software tool come along that's way better, simpler, easier, faster. And that person, the expert, feels threatened by it. It could be the best thing on the planet ever happened to the business. They're not going to make the shift. Why? because they're going to lose their identity as the local expert. And it's the same thing for the guy that's out there turning the wrench. He gets off and thrives and gets the boost when he can fix it. That's what turns him on. That's what he's known for. Everybody's praised him for it his whole life. When he starts getting into a leadership role, nobody's praising him because he sucks at it. And it's hard and people are messy. My grandfather used to say, business would be easy if it wasn't for the people, right? That's the hard part of business. So if you're a $1 million to $3 million entrepreneur, that you're right now, you have a job. You're probably wearing a lot of the hats and you have a decision to make. Am I going to get really good at being a craftsman of people, a builder of people? And that's a mind shift that has to happen. And once you commit to doing that, you'll go through the awkward phase and the frustrating phase. It's really hard. I wrote the book, The Sales Boss, all about building sales teams. I've worked with a lot of sales leaders. The hardest thing for a sales leader to do when they're a great salesperson is to build a sales team. And the reason is they're so good at it. They go on a ride along. And it is so hard for them to let their salesperson loose because they know they could have won the deal and they're addicted to the revenue and they love being the savior. They love closing it. It's the same thing with a business owner that's the craftsman. They know they could have fixed the problem. They know they can pick up the phone and talk to the customer. The problem is when they do that, instead of letting their people go through the pain, is they never get great people.
Can you speak to that for just a moment? How does the guy let their people fail in front of them? Because then he's like, but then it hurts my business and I'm losing money if I could have just stepped in.
Yeah, well, you have to have the long range view. Yes, you're going to protect your customer at the end of the day, but you have to be certain that you have identified. That's where your systems and processes come into place. I have to put a process in place that says Mike's going to be able to produce at this level, even when I'm not there. I'm not going to jump in and save Mike. I'm going to put a system in place that gives Mike the feedback so he knows when he's achieved the standard of excellence that represents our company. What you'll see, especially in that small business, somebody hires somebody, they spend minimal amount of time, they throw them in a truck and they never look at the person again. They never go back and evaluate them until there's a problem. Then they come in, they fix the problem, they go away. They never go to first principles to say, why is this thing continuing to happen? Back when I was selling a lot of sales consulting, number one way to get a CEO to hire you to fix a sales team, just say, all I need you to do is sit down and listen to 5 of your team's sales calls. And if you can get through that without puking, you shouldn't hire me. Because what happens is they hire somebody, they teach them, the shtick. What are we going to say? How do we sell this thing? And then they go and they're like, oh, thank goodness, I don't have to be on the front lines of sales anymore. And they never actually look again. They never pay attention. And then when they go back, they're horrified. You mean we're actually saying that to clients? We're actually doing that? And it's the same thing in home services. You get back in and watch what your technicians are doing in the home or with your customers, you would probably be shocked. Unless you have a really good system in place for training and developing and monitoring and going back and looking. And by the way, your employees will actually appreciate it. The problem with a great salesperson, I'm going to use that analogy because I think it's exactly the same. The problem with a great salesperson being the sales leader is if they were a natural at it, they're going to lead the same way they want to be led, which is stay the heck out of my way and let me do my job. I'll call you when I need you because they're natural. They didn't need it. They didn't want weekly coaching. They didn't want somebody checking their numbers. They didn't need somebody listening to their calls because they were natural at it, right? But most people, 90% aren't natural at things. Certainly not the same thing as the sales leader. Or so we switch that to a contractor owner. Your natural skill, you can't expect you're going to hire people in that have that same natural ability you do. So you can't lead those people like you wanted to be led. Right? Because you had a work ethic. You naturally understood what it was to deliver great customer service and all of the other things that are important to you in your business. That's why you went out on your own in the first place.
I've always been trained on the delegation process of I do it and you watch me and then we have a conversation. Then you do it and I watch you and then we have a conversation and then we repeat. And that's like the delegation process. What is your framework or system or process when it comes to how do you make sure that the person is trained well enough to meet my standards without me not being there? Maybe 80% as good as me. Is there something more sophisticated than what I just outlined or something to piggyback off of that?
Yeah, I think there's a million ways to get that accomplished. So I don't think I'm going to add a ton of value to that conversation. Would just say the first probably part of that is, do you know and can you clearly articulate what the standard is? And do you have some way of measuring it? That's usually the problem. The problem isn't usually that we can't train people, we can't hold people accountable. It's actually, we don't have a standard that we can clearly communicate. And here's how you'll know if that's true in your business. Just go into a meeting and have all of your leaders write down what the standard is across anything. Just ask them what it is. They're going to be all over the board. They're going to explain it completely differently. Your leadership team should be able to, in isolation, get really close to everything else the leadership says about what's important. I guarantee you, if you come into WhoHire, every employee knows exactly what our standard is for where we're headed, what our goals are, where we're exiting the business, what valuation we'll be at, what revenue number we'll be at, how many customers of each kind we'll have, because we talk about it all the time. That's the standard.
So that means there's meetings that are taking place.
Yes, always.
I
Yeah.
say that kind of like lightheartedly, jokingly, smirkish, because like you said, they go in the truck, they go about their day, they send their crew in the morning. Maybe there's a couple calls throughout the day, but there's not like a formal, in some cases, like let's sit down once a week or once every 2 weeks and let's talk about the state of the business and status of each of the jobs. And let's have like an all hands meeting. Like it's just foreign for a lot of these blue collar guys. Obviously in the white collar space, we had meetings all the time. But in the blue collar space, it's like, let's just get the job done. And I really try to inspire listeners to make it a priority at some point to get your team together to discuss those standards, to review some of those important messages that were delivered in the hiring and the interview process. So it is repeated. It is a part of the culture. It is a part of the DNA. And sometimes they don't make it a priority because we need to get into the truck and we need to get into the customer's home.
Yeah, the way I try to frame this, if I'm coaching a leader in an organization, in a small organization, they're almost always chasing fires and there will always be a fire. If you watch a firefighting team in a literal wildfire, they always go up and do and remove all of the vegetation in a fire line. And they don't fight the fire at the edge of the fire. They actually start fighting it on the other edge of that fire line. And they let things burn, knowingly let them burn so they can focus on establishing a fire line. So if you're in a business, you have to realize your number one job is your people, identifying them, attracting them, training them, inspiring them, seeing them. That's your job. Stop fighting fires, which means you have to be okay letting some fire burn while you build that fire line, because you're never going to have time. If you successfully put out the fires all day today, you're going to be so exhausted. You're going to drop into bed and you're going to get up the next morning. You're going to throw on your jeans, put on your work boots, and you're going to go fight more fires. And you're going to come home. You're going to be exhausted and fall into bed. And you're going to do the same thing the rest of your life until you're just like, I'm tired of this. Let's chuck in the keys and be done with this. Unhealthy, unhappy. Build the fire line. Like, it's okay. You're going to have fires in your business. You come into my business, you point out so many fires. I'll tell you what, I know they're there. I'm going to let them burn because there's only 2 or 3 fires that matter right now to build that fire line.
Before we end this conversation, Jonathan, you had a son that was born at 1 pound. I had a son that was born at 1 pound. He's now 30 years old. You're in Hawaii right now. You're traveling the world with your family. Can you just speak to Jonathan as a family man? I think it's important for the listener to know like who you are and beyond your success and beyond the knowledge that you just shared with the audience.
Wow, that's a big bucket right at the end. But yes, I have a 30-year-old son, was born 1.5 pounds. I helped raise 3 other boys. So my identity is as a father and just love my kids to death. At the end of the day, what are you building for? I read a story years ago about a fisherman on an island and somebody from McKinsey Consulting showing up and going, you have a great little fishing thing going on here. You could buy a few boats, you could bring tourists in, and he goes on this whole thing about what you could build. And the fisherman goes, what, so I can retire and go fishing every afternoon? He's already doing that. So I think you have to just get clear about what is the thing that truly makes you feel rich and complete and you want to accomplish. Like a lot of times, why does somebody go out to be an entrepreneur? Go out on their own and deal with all the BS. It's because society in some ways is telling us, it's romanticizing this idea of working for yourself and this entrepreneurship. Well, it's not for everyone. It's not for the faint of heart. Like if you thrive in that environment and that's what like really builds your passion, then yeah, it's worth it. The pain's worth it because that's what fuels you. But if that's the thing that exhausts you, why are you doing that? I was walking down one of the streets here in Hawaii and there's somebody, they're playing a guitar on the side of the road. Happy as can be. Good for them. But society would try to circle that person. Oh, you've wasted your life. Your life's a failure. You're on the street corner playing a guitar. You know what? I'm happy that guy's there playing a guitar. I don't want it to be me. because that wouldn't satisfy me. It's just getting real with yourself. Like, what is at the end of the day, when I'm by myself, what satisfies me? We tend to care as much about other people and how are they seeing us and how do we compare to that person and how do we live this game by comparison? And that's not the game we should be playing.
I know you're already hitting on it, but the question we ask every guest before we leave the podcast is, what does it mean to you to be better than rich? You kind of gave some context to it, but what does it mean for you?
Yeah, for me, better than rich means that I have the ability to live my life 100% authentically. That's it. So I grew up in a religious cult. I left that at a young age, lost my entire family, which I've since rebuilt, lost all of my social structure. But that freedom in that moment to make a choice to live authentically was a powerful lesson for me that I never wanted to live captive to other people's ideas of what should be and how I should believe and what I should be doing each day when I get out of bed. So for me, being rich is I get to choose and live as close to the authentic line as I possibly can, which means I might sometimes disappoint people. Some people might not think I accomplish what they think they would accomplish if they were I don't care. I can live authentically and I'm okay with that.
Jonathan, I'm sure people are going to want to stay in touch. What's the best way for them to stay in touch with you or WhoHire?
Yeah, WhoHire.com, super simple URL. John is my name, Jon, John at WhoHire.com is my email. I answer all my emails. I have somebody that answers my emails for me, but they all get answered. So that's the easiest way to get in touch with me.
Jonathan, truly appreciate you. Thank you for your wisdom and being here. And listener, thanks for supporting the show. Without you, we obviously don't have a show. So season 4 has been amazing. We have more guests coming your way. And as always, leave today better than you found it. Till next time on the Better Than Rich Show. Cheers.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the show, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from us, you can follow us on Instagram at betterthan_rich and join our Facebook group at The Better Than Rich Show. Thanks again for listening. We look forward to seeing you next time. And remember, leave today better than you found it.